welcome, welcome. Happy Thursday to everybody. This is me, Brandy Pete from Yes, I Am the Veteran podcast. And today I am here from Pain and Pleasure Tattoo and Piercing Studio. And we are here tonight for a Bad Mom Social Hour. So I'm pretty excited about all that. So those of you guys that don't know, Bad Mom Social Hour, it did come from something that we did create when the podcast originally did start. And it was the Bad Moms Club, and then we kind of changed it as things did change over the years. But it's definitely fun. It's a kind of way that we chose to celebrate moms just being moms and being real about things, because unfortunately, especially in the era of social media, we tend to edit and cover up every single flaw, and we're not realistic or authentic in whom we are sometimes. And other people see us and they look at it like, that's what the standard should be, and that's unfair. So for me, I like doing these every so often. Now, the last one got a little too wild. Emily, I believe you were there with on the infamous Lost podcast. Were you?
Was that the ice thong episode?
No. Really? You had to bring that up. That was not that one. That was a different one. That was when I fell and I almost broke my ass. That was a different one. No, I was talking about when Mr. Wilburton got pulled out in live air and entirely pissed off my producer.
No, I was not on that one. Oh my god.
So like you just outed yourself.
Yeah. So basically, I made the mistake of asking what was the craziest thing they'd ever pulled out of a washer. And she pulled out a very sizable 9-inch thing she enjoyed. And his name was Mr. Wilburton. She had him out. She was describing everything. I'm like, why? You have a podcast, girl, stop. But my producer was not amused at all. But I was really, it was an awkward 30 seconds. But either way, there's a no pedis roll effect on my show now because of this. But either way, the Bad Moms Club, the purpose of it was to just showcase the fact of the real average working mom's issues. So that's what we're doing here today. So I did want to introduce our guest host, Emily Ewert. We love her. She's an advocate. We do all kinds of crazy shit together. Either we're getting money for homeless veteran strippers, or, we're helping advocate where we can for homeless women veterans, or we're doing all kinds of other hell raising and shooting events. You never know where you're going to see us, but when we're together, we're usually doing something. So did you want to introduce yourself, Emily?
No, I'm an Air Force veteran, mom of 2 teenagers, which is part of why I drink. I enjoy doing crazy shit with Brandy because life is never dull with her.
Fair. That's fair. Also fair.
Yeah.
But yeah, we actually met at Miss Veteran America. We both were the only 2 that were all black and entirely chapped the asses of everybody. So we're like, did we just become best friends? Yep. So at that point, we didn't even realize we were from San Antonio at the same time, because we had done different years. No, they kept it separate. I think that they knew we're both Hellraisers. They're like, nope, keep it apart. But either way, once we saw each other, we were like, that's it. We're going to hang out. And then it just was cool that we ended up being in San Antonio, and we both like to advocate for women veterans, especially, which is so needed, especially in this day and age. And women veterans really need to claim what's theirs as far as benefits or things that they don't realize that they should be claiming. So that's why I'm really thankful that we're going to have some of the guests we're going to be having on next year to really discuss and dispel some of those stigmas that we do have, and that way we can get more veterans really claiming with their blood money, because at the end of the day, that's really what that is. But I did speak with Felicia. She is planning on coming back on next year to talk about claims, which is great.
Awesome.
Last week, I totally got to see Sister Cecilia, which is awesome. She tattooed me, literally. So
that turned out so great.
Right?
Well, that's the recent one.
Yes. Yeah. And not that one. But no, the one of my, yeah, that's awesome. So she does a phenomenal job. She's a phenomenal tattooer. I was really proud of her. She was just featured on the Ad Council. She was one of 4 people in the entire U.S. They find you, you don't apply for it. And they reach out to her. And out of everyone they featured on the Ad Council the whole year, she was one of 4 that was flown to New York and shown off for what she could do. And she was tattooing veterans with PTSD. So my hats are entirely off to Cecilia. Congratulations.
Oh,
again.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like I said, she's doing amazing things in the veteran community. And I love that she is really embodying what it is to be a badass woman veteran, which is why we're doing this on the show. So we're always happy to have her on, and we're definitely gonna be having her on again soon. It was definitely hilarious at her shop. They had a bunch of different signs. I guess they had a bunch of streetwalker signs in Virginia back in the day. And she had a bunch of them still in her shop. They were saying women bringing sailors home must pay in advance. And then they had one saying watch out for pickpockets and loose women, and a bunch of other stuff. Like, what kind of stuff was happening in Virginia that they needed signs? Like,
There's stuff that's
Right?
happening now.
there's a sign usually for a reason. Like when I was in the Air Force, there was a no strip agreement that I actually had to sign when I was TDY once at Sea Stars. And I was like, why the fuck is that a rule? There's always a story behind the rules, right? And it turned out that one of the girls that was there got caught by our cadre stripping at like down the street, and like it was like real awkward. So we had to sign like a waiver. I don't why, I'll never understand, but you never know. Everything usually is because of a story. But and of course, last but not least, we definitely want to introduce our guest tonight, Tiffany Morningstar. Did you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, Tiffany?
Yeah, I was an Army veteran. I was in for 7 years. I was medically retired before my 8. I was born on the Air Force Base in Montana, raised the one in Alaska. And my grandpa was also a veteran. So we are 3rd generations in. My grandpa became a U.S. citizen by enlisting. And then since then, all of us kept that tradition going. So
nice. What was your MOS?
I was a mechanic.
Oh, wow. That was fun.
Yeah. It was it's already a wonderful ratio of men to women. So it was very extra male dominated. It came with some unique challenges, which is, again, why you're having this podcast.
Yes, ma'am.
It never occurred to me that my enlistment would be different than my father's and my grandpa's, because all I ever knew from birth until 5 years ago was the post and the base.
Yep.
So that was an interesting learning curve to see that there was a whole part of that world I missed.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know anything about the Air Force until I went in the Air Force. My whole family was Army, so I was like the super odd black sheep. So for me, like I didn't know anything Air Force. So coming in, I was like, what the hell is that? What the hell is that? So I can just imagine like your learning curve was probably quite a bit frustrating for you at first as well.
Yeah. I mean, my dad coming home in uniform and his stories about it and seeing his friends, they always seemed, I think for men, it's always been an easier point of pride, if that makes sense. Not that I'm not prideful, but it was easier to feel empowered and brag about it, not have to explain the validity of your enlistment. You know, like when they went out in public, they got their thank yous. And of course, no one enlists necessarily for the thank yous, but it never occurred to me that I would be less than or have to defend myself that way. So it was an interesting perspective. My dad did tell me something about that when I went in, that it was going to be different for me, but you're so young that it doesn't click into your head until I think I made it like 3 months in. I was like, oh, this is what he meant by different. Yeah. So especially being like this like little like 5'2", 108 pound at the time.
Usually you have to be the most violent when you're that size. Like I was in the ambulance.
I'm like an angry chihuahua.
You had to be. Otherwise they wouldn't put in your scene. You had to be like, get the fuck on. You'd be telling like full-bird colonels that, and you had no choice, because if not, your patient could die. Or you could have a delay in care that could injure them. So at the end of the day, you had to put the rank aside. Feelings got hurt, egos were bruised, but at the end of the day, your patients were saved. So
well, then it comes to defending yourself as well. I mean, there was a duality in that where I never really saw that issue for my grandfather or my dad, where they had to consider combative situations of safety, but also when they went home, having constantly, there is no really time for you to drop your guard when you're a female who's enlisted.
Absolutely. I can't tell you how many situations that I can tell you that I got out of it just by being very situationally aware. Like one time there was like a window that didn't lock in our dorm when we were in clinicals, and crew chiefs crawled through with baby oil in their hand, you know, and had I not been aware of that, that would have been an issue. Or, you know, when I was in FTAC, you know, it happened during a phase where a bunch of guys tried getting, you know, taking too many liberties in the trucks, thinking that you weren't going to do anything. Well, I was a farm girl that was taught that if you're going to be in a truck like that with dudes, you drive, because that way you have the keys and you can bail out. And that's exactly what the fuck I did. But had I not been situationally aware, I would have been unfortunate, and the situation would be something that would be different now. And for me, that's why I am an advocate, and I work with a lot of women veterans, and I review their records, and I convince them to file for what's theirs and what they should legally claim and have compensation for. And at the end of the day, it's something that women aren't doing enough, and that's something that I'm trying to dispel. And, you know, if it's one at a time, if it's one podcast at a time, I don't care. But at the end of the day, like, women know that it's okay to fight for things that happen during service. And so many women, like 80% of women don't file for any health benefits of any kind after their service. Like I've
I
had
do
women.
think some of that is feeling less entitled because society and your own, you know, your unit will also make you feel like you are lower in that echelon. Even if someone the same rank, you are always subservient.
Yep.
And so then when it comes time to get those benefits, even subconsciously in your brain, you are not veteran enough.
Yep, that's shame.
No, you feel like you don't deserve it.
Yeah, I've gotten into like full out arguments with women veterans before where I'm like, at the end of the day, you have to look at it like a vehicle claim. Your 8893 is the inspection of the goods, right? That's your enlistment physical. When you get out, that's your separation physical. Anything that happened between that point to the end point, you are compensated for, just like you would if you got into an accident. If something happened to you, if there was damage to your vehicle, same. You have to look at it the same way. They get bonuses off the denial rates. And at the end of the day, women aren't filing for so much money. It's wild. And I mean, 90 to 100, that's $1,000. That's rent for people.
I also think there's a shame in filing for non-combative injuries, like the MST victims.
Yes.
But again, there's also shame for reporting it. There's shame for, I mean, that goes without saying, but maybe this sounds wrong. When I enlisted, there were things that I knew. I didn't join during peacetime. And even if I had, I knew part of my biohazard or whatever hazard pay agreement was you could get blown up. We are in a war where there are IEDs. You could get shot at. This is the military. These are things that I went in and I signed that paper knowing these are your work hazards. Never in my agreement was there a work hazard of my coworker. And so when there's injuries like that, to me, that is an incredibly valid thing. You know, like there's no other job where, let's say I worked in a nuclear power plant, right? I agree that I might have radiation exposure. I never agree to have my boss ass grab me.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I feel like those claims, people need to start looking at it as, of all the things that you should be claiming, that is absolutely one. That wasn't a part of the deal you made.
Hell no. I know we did not get bonuses on that shit. I know that.
No.
Just saying.
Sorry, dark humor.
Had to. I'm sorry. I couldn't help it.
You're in good
Emily and I are
company.
so bad about that. It's habit with two of us on the podcast.
Right.
But no, absolutely. You're absolutely right. I mean, I've gotten into so many drag down knockout arguments with women, like file for this, like bet me, like file for this and see what happens. And they're so afraid that they're going to get hit with UCMJ because they were drinking downrange, or they're, you know, ashamed of what happened and they're afraid that an investigation will be open because they file. And I'm like, that's not how that works. They're two totally different sides of the house. You can absolutely do this and you can do this as well. But so many people are not up to date and up to speed on current processes and proceedings for claims or just things that they're eligible for. I mean, I had 23,000 people watch a video based on the VA clothing allowance. And there were so many veterans that were writing to me that they didn't know that they were eligible for like $5,000 or $6,000 a year. And
I just had a conversation with an amputee because his clothes are constantly getting caught in that metal joint when he walks.
Yep. And that should be absolutely something they could file for. And they could actually file for that, the chair, their forearm crutches, all individually. There's like 4 or 5, depending on specifically where the amputation was. But there's a lot out there that the veterans don't know. Like, did you guys know that there's actually a paraffin wax machine that can be prescribed to you through the VA?
No. What?
This is why I had the podcast. But yes, so it's actually a total thing. So you can get it through podiatry, but especially veterans that are diabetic or they have dry feet or any sort of issue.
I have a neuropathic hole in my foot. That's insanity.
Exactly. Then you can have them send you to podiatry and they can have it prescribed to you with about half a pound of wax. No, 5 pounds of wax.
Look at me learning stuff from being the podcast.
Giant tab like this.
Yep. What?
Nice.
Okay. Well, I will update you because I'm going to be doing that now.
I got one. I have one literally in my house right now. I didn't believe them either. And yep, I was proven wrong. But a lot of diabetics use it because of the fact that it helps with dry feet.
Yeah,
but you can use your hands or your feet.
Any neural thing, myopathy, neuropathy, I happen to have TBI and I had a stroke. So my right side, you can kind of see, I'm sure in the video here, that the side as it goes along is a little bit down. So my right foot has a small hole. So that's amazing.
Yeah.
But in terms of claiming stuff, going back to the military culture thing, part of the culture that you're in forever is that you're not supposed to complain. Like that's your point of pride. So to get out and to try to upheave that, it feels like you're being weak or you can't manage yourself or you don't have the bearing. How to undo that? And that culture doesn't stop. It's not like you become a veteran. The veteran community is made of the same culture. So you go to the VA and it stays with you. You're never really out when you get out. You just go to a new place. That was a hard realization too. Because I got out and was like, sweet, that's over. And then I went to the VA and I was like, oh my God, it's just another piece of it.
It's just microwave, guys.
Yep.
It's cold and slightly shittier, but it's still here. The hurry up and
Yep.
wait exists.
Well, like, that was what I found with Miss Veteran America. Like, I had been out of the service for over a decade before I decided to compete, and I didn't. In that entire time, I didn't feel like a veteran. I felt kind of, a little lost and alone. And joining that gave me a mission and a unit again, and it was amazing. And my cohort and I, we still talk like at least once a week, and Brandy's part of the alumni for it, and it's just it feels so good to have a mission again.
Well, I love that we're helping women veterans and their children, especially because of the fact that the demographic is so at risk right now, and the VA does not do them service, and the hood housings are not acceptable for women and children, especially MST survivors. Like, no, like we need to do better by our people. The numbers I'm hearing out of California are wild right now. They were saying like 22,000 veterans are homeless, and half of them are women and children. Like. And that's wild for California, and we're the second most densely populated veteran state. We don't have nearly as many capacities as California does for homeless veterans, and many of them that they give us through the VA, they've been out of funds since July. We don't stop being homeless in July. Like, sorry guys, no. That's why I did the fight card, because we were raising funds for homeless veterans in Louisiana, but it's not going away anywhere. And unfortunately, like, we're not doing well enough by our homeless veterans, especially, trying to combat them for future homelessness. And a big thing is ratings. Like 90 to 100% is $1,000. That's rent for somebody. Like, if women claim what they could rate, imagine what the demographics would change into.
Yeah. Well, and then talking about not feeling the right to feel like you're a veteran, we go back to that 1-to-4 ratio of men to women in the Army. I don't know across the board. But when women aren't getting involved after, those numbers become abysmal. So if you already felt isolated by women in the community when you're in, now as a veteran female, those women are walking away and we're not finding each other because we don't feel right to claim that. They're really alone.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I mean, the overall population doesn't help.
No. Absolutely. Like, the guys stick together, the chicks, no. We just kind of like, we got shit to do. Like, we spread the wins. Like, we are. But unfortunately, we lose that sense of community. And especially when we're suffering with things that a lot of people can't relate to, it's frustrating. And then you end up withdrawing even more because you're like, I'm just a burden. I don't want to explain this. You get frustrated trying to explain it to people that don't understand. They've never served. They don't know what certain things are. And, you're just like, I'd rather just withdraw than continue to explain it again and again and again to different people.
Well, me and Brandon had this conversation the other day, which we were talking about going this podcast about. It's basic survival, right? Like, there's a kid being picked on and you have 60 kids picking on the one kid. You might go in and feel really good about your morality of doing that, but the chances of getting your ass kicked are pretty high. And so being that 1-to-4 ratio as a woman, I don't know if I can look down on it that women would be mean to other women. If the men are belittling and treating the women poorly, survival sense, I can't walk away and quit my job I'm contracted in. I forgive and understand why women were so poor to me. They were surviving. How do I deal with, yes, I want to help Tiffany. However, there are hundreds of men here against me. And so then that kind of falls back into that veteran community. The women only ever had other women, for the most part, treating them horribly. So the men had each other, the women had themselves, and maybe a small amount of like tolerance from the men.
Yeah.
We had small tolerance before they started other bullshit, but yes, agree.
But yeah, so then her and I were talking about, overcoming that. So now you have very few women that are claiming being veterans or going back in the community. They kind of just shell in. The ones that do now have to find a way to break out of that community into realizing it's okay. It's safe now. We're not in high school. Yeah. It's like meeting your high school bully, right? And realizing you're okay.
Yeah.
You're just like, it's all in your head. You basically built it up more than you should have, and you delayed it for so long and taken care of what you needed to because of things that maybe you had looked at in a way that was more harsh than it was. And it's easy to do that. It's stressful.
It's really hard to rebuild that trust. It really is.
Oh, yeah. And we don't trust anybody after we get out, man.
Oh, God, no. Even the men don't. So the thing about the women, it's just like.
And unfortunately, there's like I feel an unfair double standard with male veterans versus female veterans. Like, males can be like the bros and do wild stuff. But women veterans, we have to be perfect and cupcakes and flowers and, if you do anything outside of that, you're like me and you're disgraced and a black sheep and blacklisted, and that's fine.
Or your
But at the end of the
drama.
day, it's gonna
That's my
be
favorite.
Exactly.
Anything inconvenient or
Drama.
somebody
That
finds
is like the male.
combative
That is the male
is
perspective.
drama.
I couldn't hit it. That's what that means. Your drama, because I couldn't hit it. That's what that means. Or I fucked you over.
Or it's
Yeah.
something that, like, any complaint, valid or otherwise, is drama. You're to be
I fucked her
quiet,
over.
take your
This is drama.
shit, and keep your head down.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Get back into the box we need you to be in.
Yep.
Exactly.
And
I found it
yeah.
even more true in the VA, because now it's coming from the physicians. I was like, my God, I kind of knew because I was enlisted that the other veterans were going to be assholes to me, but they're conditioned from seeing all the men come in and the way that they conduct themselves. The women are so used to having to kind of just, that it builds that relationship with the physicians. The women won't stand up often and won't make those complaints because we're so much used to having to contain even more so than the male counterparts.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not even that. Like, a lot of us, like, we have kids, like, we have babysitters. Like, I mean, the VA is not paying for us to bring our kids, to our appointments. They're not watching them, especially with COVID. Like, when we couldn't bring them onto the facility, a lot of times we have shit to do. We're already taking out of work time to even go to our appointments because they don't have anything after work hours for women that are of working age, because the average demographic is what, a 55-year-old white male. So at the end of the day, like, you're not helping the women veterans in any capacity. Like, yeah, you just receive funding for extra prosthetics that sort of look like a chick wore. Awesome. But, like, what else are you doing, though? Like, and that's what I brought up on Jo Jorgensen's podcast when she did the Ladies for Liberty. I'm like, what are we doing for the women veterans that have kids that are single parents? We can pay for dudes for dick pills and all the other stuff. Like, what can we do for women veterans to get and claim the things that they need to claim, because they don't have Saturday, Sunday VSOs. So how are they going to do their claims if they can't get in to do those?
It's interesting because even in the civilian world, women are so forgotten as veterans that even my child, there was Veterans Day and the kids were encouraged to bring a picture of a family member and color it and everything. And it's not that she was ashamed, but she was confused at how to explain that. And the previous Veterans Day, when I came in, we were all supposed to stand up and I was the only female. And it felt weird. And then this is like last month, I was at a training event supporting a friend of mine, and they asked for veterans on the active duty post who were there to support stand up. And they were trying to get me to stand up. Like, I can't, this is me. I'm having this conversation right now. I couldn't get myself to stand up because I felt out of place. That's insane. I'm here with trainees and I've earned my keep. I've taken my time. I did my time. And I feel wrong to stand up. Like, it's imposter syndrome. That's what it is.
No, look, fuck that. Like, look, I got to tattoo just for that. Fuck
imposter syndrome.
Yes, I am the veteran. Like, just in case y'all didn't know. Just saying.
But isn't that silly? Because even I kind of felt bad because one of them was a female veteran sitting next to me. And she's looking at me like, get up.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is that, like, so many women try to discredit their service because they didn't deploy. Like, when we did the shooting event earlier this year, Emily, people were telling us, like, we had women Marines telling us, well, do you want us to go home? What? Like, well, we need to deploy. You're a woman veteran. You raise your hand. Like, that's all we needed you to do is be a veteran. That's it. We weren't going to
have that check the same as anybody else.
It was wild.
You're going to pick what happens. This is like crossing the street and everybody is in this big gap and you're told this bus is going to come through. We don't know when it's going to come through, but there's a good chance you're going to get hit. It's not my fault the bus didn't hit me. I agreed, just like everybody else next to me. It's not to degrade them overcoming the trauma of being hit. That's its own beast. Absolutely. But that validity of the agreement and the sacrifice that you were willing to do so still counts.
Absolutely. And not even that, like, that we all raise the same right hand. And at the end of the day, like, you're my brother, you're my sister. We should support each other. And that's why I love that we met so many amazing guests through the podcast. And we've done all these different adventures because of the fact that I'm here to empower women veterans. And we need that. I've had so many women come up to me and say, I haven't identified as a veteran in 15 years, 10 years. Remember that one veteran we had that she had left her house in 12 years? She had literally never left her house in 12 years. And she saw our shooting event and she drove across the state of Texas. She fired at the shooting range with ice blocks on her feet, and she almost got the perfect score.
Yeah.
I have that. My first year out, I didn't. That's how I ended up in the VA system. I remember the first month being like so grateful, like a lot of people like, "Ooh, that's over, I'm out." You're excited to sleep in, you're excited to be normal. And then the oh shit moment after that calm, where I didn't know what to do with myself. Like, where do I go? What do I do? I have no organization. My life has been so structured. And like I told you, I grew up on the post. Like, I've always had something. My apologies?
No, I knew I shouldn't have slept during taps.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. And there is some of that. You wake up or you have things and it's hard to uncondition that this is the time of the day or the moment where I'm supposed to do something.
Yeah.
But,
and like
absolutely.
when I got out in 2008. You know, my initial enlistment contract was up and I had a 3-year-old and a 6-month-old and my contract was up. But I was like, all right, this is a great time. But it was 2008. Everything had fucking crashed. And I couldn't find a job to save my life. And I'd always had a job or been military. And all of a sudden I'm adrift. I had no community whatsoever except for my husband and my kids. And I just had no clue what to do. And so I just took the first job that came along. And luckily, you know, that kind of paved the way for an actual career path and friends and coworkers and almost a unit kind of feel. But no, it took me until Miss Veteran America to actually identify as a veteran.
Yeah,
you know,
so
that veteran only parking spot at Sonic? I'm finally
take
claiming
that.
that shit. Okay? That is my
that fucking
Love
space.
me for using that.
You park there.
I had a guy come up to me and tell me how disrespectful. A
No.
civilian.
Oh no, I've had people
You
literally
can
put
do
signs on my car saying stupidity is not a handicap in all caps. And then they said that I'm gonna tow it. And I said, I wish you fucking would. And I wrote like a response and I put it in my window for like a week. I was so mad. But that's why I wanted to do the podcast, because someone tried pulling him out of my car saying that, you know, you're not a veteran, you need to leave. You know, my parents actually deserve the space because you're not handicapped either. And I was like, well, I'm both of those, so you're about to learn today. But
Right.
you shouldn't assume what anybody is based off of what you can see and not necessarily understand. Like, you didn't even bother to ask them. That's not even fair for them.
That's the hard as a young, able-bodied, disabled veteran
Yep.
for me.
People
You
Well,
don't
my
look
photos
it.
Yes. And actually, that's how I got so sick, was when I got into the VA system. I tried to say, like, something's really wrong. I can't feel the right side of my body. I'm forgetting how to talk. I'm going blind in one eye. And typical things, right? Like, you're hormonal, it's PTSD. And I did have PTSD as a diagnosis. And that, as a female, was a huge hindrance.
Yep.
So years went by where, like, I'm slowly losing all of these abilities. And by the time it was said and done, I ended up having a mass stroke and permanent damage done. But it was amazing. Like, even now, I still have horrible bouts where I can't digest food right. I can't feel my right foot. I have to swing it. Some days are worse. I have seizures now, which means during this podcast, I'll probably have to take my anticonvulsants. But just because I look okay in my photos or I look okay in this moment,
don't assume.
doesn't mean, I'll take my fucking handicap spot if I want to.
I'll park at that shit every goddamn time. I would fight me.
Y'all better.
Over with my
I will
cart.
fight you
It took
disabled.
me a
I
long
will
time.
fight you disabled.
Being a mom, though, I feel like really saved me in that, because especially with the veteran thing, a kid really straightened me out, because her seeing me almost ashamed to claim that made me kind of want to set a better example. Being a female mom really changed a lot of how I acted.
Absolutely.
And when I had to use that handicap spot and I was ashamed, kids are a lot clearer thinking. And she stepped in and was like, I don't want to watch my mom walk from the back and drag her leg behind her. And then we got in a scooter and someone looked at me funny and we ran into him. And it was great. And I knocked down a Hallmark stand and it was hilarious.
Oh, yeah, you did. Keep that shit out with your bad luck.
It was really funny too. They're like, oh my God, I'm so sorry that I ran into it.
My bad. Clean that up. Thanks. No,
Yeah, like I had foot surgery and had to take a wheelchair in stores and shit, or the little motorized scooter. And I mean, yeah, I'm a little overweight. I'm not grotesquely overweight, but
Why are you sexy? Stop.
I had people like staring at me like, oh, is that why you're using it? And I'm like, no, bitch. Do you see the big ass boot on my foot? I mean, people are so judgy. People are so judgy, and I hate it. And
like,
then
it's their fucking business. If they don't need a scooter, there's really no reason for them to even care.
Okay. I've had people ask me to prove I was disabled in the scooter. I'm like, what? You don't ask people to prove they're fat in the scooter? Like, are you serious? Like, that's not, you can't even do that by the ADA standards. But yeah, they would assume it because they were like, oh, you're young, you must be fucking around. No, I have 17% circulation in my legs. I literally can't walk from here to that counter. Like,
but here's the thing: if I was a man and I had a burly beard and I had whatever hat on, and I was still jacked and I still looked like I went to the gym, but I got in that scooter, would people still look at me wrong?
No.
And that's an unfortunate double standard, because it is.
And I'm not a man hater. I'm not blaming men. I'm blaming a culture and society that needs to be fixed. And I hate that when we discuss these issues, that it can be framed as me not liking men. I have no problem with men. That's insane. That's, half the population plus. Like, as a straight female, I really enjoy men. I have a child. I really like men. But the point stands, It's a cultural issue. It's not a man versus woman issue.
No.
Oh yeah. Well, I dealt with that with doing everything for Miss Veteran America. How I ended up doing it was my daughter was severely bitten at daycare through the face, like, and she had like a little mouth scar basically when they sutured it shut, which took quite a bit to do that, and she was fixated on it. And I was like, well, let me see if I can find people with scars, not like skin conditions, not amputees, but actual scars that are women. And I couldn't really find anything. And I really looked, and I was like, wow, like, I guess I have to show her. And I hid from people for 10 years because people would call me a freak, a monster, disgrace. I scared children. I needed to cover up. Like, so for me, I hid from people, but I was like, well, fuck it. I guess I have to like show her. Otherwise, she's going to grow up thinking like she has to, you know, cover this to fit in. And I didn't want her to be in that Instagram life where she's got to be perfect all the time, because it's an unrealistic expectation. And so when I did it, even when I ran, there was like girls that were mad. They were like, you know, you needed to cover those up and blah, blah, blah. And well, mine are invisible. That's cool. But mine are very visible though. So I don't have that luxury. But at the end of the day, I want to show my daughter it's okay to be glamorous and scarred, and you could do both, and you could do it very well. And
well, and more importantly, it's not my job to fucking perform all day. I'm a human being. I am not a celebrity. I am not a public persona. I didn't agree to sustain some kind of fucking image or something to make someone else comfortable. I'm living my life. I don't need to present the best part of it for anyone else.
No.
And people assume that too. Like, I've had so many people come up to me, I wish I had your life. I wish this and this. No, the fuck you don't. Like, no. Trade me. Like, I want to be normal for a whole day.
Moments. You know? And assuming that those little moments are like all stitched together into the whole. Right? It
reminds me of the idea of Keeping Up with the Joneses, wherever it was, where you look at your neighbor's yard or you look at their perfect wife or husband, and it became this comparison. Only it's so much worse now because you don't even see them coming in and out having a bad day. It is exactly those 3 seconds that you want them to see on repeat.
Yeah,
exactly. And like, you know, Brandy and I recently did a photo shoot with some smoke bombs that she was testing out. And so, yeah, of course we had our makeup done and our hair all nice, and the girls looked good, right? And so we took a picture together, and it looks wildly different than I look right now, because this is my normal, right? I'm not going to put makeup on every damn day to be a performing monkey.
Nor do you have to. Like, who gives a like, it's your fucking life.
Yeah. To be fair, I put on makeup so I don't blend into the walls. I just happen to like move it like last minute. But I'm the color of death. Actually, I'm so evil. I had to poison myself to stay alive, literally.
Oh, so this is spray tan.
As a side effect, I'm super pale. So I'm like, my friends make fun of me on the podcast. So I'm like, fuck you guys. I don't wear makeup so I don't blend in. That's why I do it. But yes, I agree. I mean, for me, for the most part, I don't wear makeup because dudes don't know how to act. I've been chased to daycares with horny dudes. Like, anywhere, like, you would think it's inappropriate, it's happened. So for me, unless I'm like doing an event or, you know, it's something specific, like the photo shoot for, you know, that we did last week, which is awesome, by the way. Like, I was honored that Rammstein thought that was so amusing, by the way.
Oh, yeah, that was awesome.
That's another really valid issue, though, is why is my makeup relevant to how I perform my job? Because even enlisted to be taken more seriously, like if I wore makeup in uniform, there was this, you can't win, right? Like, no makeup, you look like shit, you're treated even worse than you already were. Too much makeup and you're attention seeking, or you're a whore, or you're whatever. And even as a veteran now, I couldn't give a fuck less. I truly could not. But
I do what the fuck I want now as a veteran. Like, when I was in there's ECMJ.
I think an art form of insulting people. I'm like a walking Hallmark card of fucking people up now. But
then that's why we're friends.
Yeah, I know. But it's amazing. Like, if I somehow less valid than you if I choose to do my makeup today. You know what I mean? Like, it's fucking insane. Can I not be confident and capable and also do my makeup? And if I don't, like, I'm not really here to make you happy. I'm not a piece of art, friend. No. Like, maybe I'm having a bad fucking day.
And if I am a piece of art, I'm going to start charging. So
no shit.
Definitely abstract for me. And the artist
can say that now. Like, if you want your makeup, give me 5 minutes, but I also want money for every one of those minutes.
Oh yeah, I go from bag lady to bombshell. There's no in between. So
you gave me an idea. I'm going to use that.
Yes.
Like, when I was in basic, I joined kind of late. I was like mid-20s when I joined the Air Force, and my hair was like this long all over my head because I did not want to fuck with it during basic. I just no.
You were vetted prior to going, huh?
Yeah, so I had a really short pixie. I had fucking BCGs on, and you're covered in dirt and sweat, right? Basic is not glamorous. No. We're doing TP, and I'm standing there talking to my element leader, and there's like 3 TIs over at the snake pit, and my bad luck, they call me over. And one of them was this blonde chick who had her hair just perfectly smoothed back. She had all of her makeup done, really nice. You know, she had her nails done, and she just proceeded to dress me down for the way I look. And I'm like, lady, this is your fault. You won't let me wear my contacts. You won't let me put makeup on.
Yeah, no.
But it was her that was
because I would never do the opposite. I always thought it was interesting. Like, if I didn't have makeup on, it was a personal choice.
Mm-hmm.
I would never then shame somebody for making the opposite one. It was just interesting. I had to play by their rules.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I always try to support. Not everyone is on the same train on that, I guess. But for me, I like to support when women look great. I mean, when you look like shit, hey, I got a makeup artist, or I can help you look, you know, this. But I mean, you're basic. Like, it's an expectation. You're going to look like ass. Like, if you're looking good and basic, you get fucked with more because you're princess or something. And I think the first time we got to wear makeup was when we took the photo, and they said, guess what? Take the fuck off right now, or you're pushing. And you're like, you had like 3 minutes to take that shot all off. Like, any tiny, like, glitter speck, anything. No, you couldn't have anything on. So it was like you didn't want to wear makeup because you knew you would get smoked more because you would look pretty.
The first year I was out, I didn't wear makeup. I covered up. I had a lot of trauma. I had to do all. I was in the fucking psych ward like instantaneously, if we're being realistic about it. But
no, for sure.
It took me forever to get to a point where I felt okay to even take pride in how I looked. I didn't want to be noticed because it could be perceived as seeking attention to even take pride or want to look nice. Like, now I see my daughter and she'll put a cute outfit on. She'll come like, Mommy, don't I look beautiful? I'm like, you look fucking amazing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I never gave myself that treatment because I was told that it was bad to feel that way about myself. And I want my kid to feel that way about herself.
And we need to be our own best advocates. And unfortunately, we get that stigma beaten to us in the military that this and that is bad. And not necessarily is. It just doesn't always align with the mission at the time. But you shouldn't have to feel terrible about yourself. Like, for me, what happened to me with my triple limb salvage was because they said, you're too fat for medication. You're making it up. No, I had arterial fucking blood clots in both legs of my right arm and my heart. No, like, I was just slowly dying. Like, you know, you could have taken care of that. But at the end of the day, like, they used my weight, and it was very nearly fatal because of that. Like, I was 2 days before organs shut down. Like, they had already started shutting down. So, I mean, and other women may have not survived what I did, you know, or other women may have gotten separated and dealt with horrible things because of their weight or other issues that are minor or subjective, because the eyeball program is not necessarily an AFI in legitimacy. It's just someone doesn't think you look right in your uniform, so they're going to make you do extra PT to work it off, even though it's not justified. And a lot of times it's a supervisor being shitty and doing something horrible to you, but it fucks with you when you get out. Like what Tiffany said, she had to overcome, you know, just how she looked out, you know, and between, you know, males and unwanted advances or attention or catcalls or dumb shit or like drive-by rip-ins or whatever they want to do. Or, you know, it's just women giving you a hard time because you're the one that's the most put together. So you're obviously the incompetent one, even though you're usually the most on your shit, because you have to know all the regs because they're going to try to get you for it. But at the end of the day, like it creates issues when you get out, and it's trying to explain that to people. It's hard to convey to civilians because they don't always understand.
No, they don't. And I think that your service makes you a different kind of mom. Like, I'm a very different mom to my kids than my sister is, who never served. You know, my sister is very lovey and understanding and, oh, it's okay, sweetheart. You want to do some art? Come on, let's do some art. And I'm like, look, would you let your friend talk to about themselves that way? Then you don't get to fucking talk about yourself that way. You know, it just, I think that hardness that we develop as part of our service, that outer armor, I think that kind of informs the way that we parent, not just the way that we interact with the rest of the world.
Absolutely.
And talking about authenticity, even in this podcast and how much I've tried to push myself past it, I find myself trying to make sure that I don't look like I'm having flashbacks, that I don't look like, but I do. I have fucking PTSD. I have flashbacks. And as we're talking about this, it is unreasonable and impossible for me to put on a show and pretend that these things aren't going to make me feel that way. Yep. So I'm sitting here, even in this podcast, having this internal dialogue, like catching myself, like, don't look like that is fucking with you.
So the entire point of this podcast is like to show that you can, you know, be who you are, like, you know, and I would never want anyone to come on and feel that they have to be a certain way. And that's why, you know, I'm on the blacklist, literally. I'm on the fucking blacklist because I don't give a fuck. Like, at the end of the day, I want people to be realistic and authentic in themselves and celebrate being a woman veteran, whatever the fuck that is. You know,
Mhm.
you might be on the wild side. You might be someone that is very pious and very spiritually driven, and someone that has, you know, XYZ goal, and that's awesome. But at the end of the day, we don't judge. And like I told Marianne, Miss Veteran America, once upon a time, you go to where your people are, and at the end of the day, not everybody goes to church on a Sunday. So,
You know what's funny though, is in secret, a lot of the people who run the veterans nonprofits, rehabilitation, or maybe are just like a very outspoken social media advocate of it, come to me in privacy, including the men, and they will tell me that they do not feel like they can have the moment I just had where they stare off and they realize that they are on live having a podcast. And people may notice that look on their face that they are seeing an old memory they've had, or that moment is making them a little nervous.
Yep.
They told me, like, if I freak out, they feel so many people are watching them that they will lose their right to give advocacy, because it's like,
That is
it
so
reminds me
shitty.
of that saying, like, don't date anybody until you have all your shit right. But then what happens if you date someone and life happens?
Yeah.
Like, maybe your shit
better
won't be
worse.
right next year. Now you just, you break up and you date when it's right again?
Not
So
even
I
that, like,
can't
better
talk from
worse.
experience as a person with PTSD and still struggling with it and give advice.
No,
I don't
you're-
think there's a point in your life where you become fucking perfect and those
No.
things aren't going to bother you. And it's really unreasonable that to
It
become
is.
an advocate of it, you have to close a chapter and then for the rest of your life somehow be okay?
No,
See,
you're
I
dating
think
That's
a
the
family
wrong
person
way to
who's
support
like,
people.
shitty. I think that you should be, I think that should make you a better advocate to say, look, man, I've been where you are. I know how that feels. And let me tell you how I got through it. And maybe that'll help you too. And I want you to feel like you can be 100% of yourself around me, that you don't have to hide who you are. You don't have to hide your geekiness. You don't have to hide your fear. You don't have to hide these little things that you love and that make you who you are. And I think that part of our experience having to hide some of those things through our service,
Yep.
I think that kind of creates some room for empathy.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of why women veterans are just the shit.
yeah, it's just like
Thank you, Susan. I do like you. I was warned.
authentic and relatable. Like at the end of the day, like, you know, that's why I've never pulled punches on my shit. Like I post pictures of my ketamine infusions and the other things I've done. I've majorly chapped the asses of queens by writing about ketamine infusions and publishing that shit, might I add. So if you look my name up, you will actually see a full article written on ketamine infusions with peer reviews explaining how this alternative medical treatment can help people. But at the end of the day, I wanted to show women especially that, you know, there's no true normal. You embrace your own normal, you forge forward, and you do what works best for you. You are no longer in the service. You don't have AFIs or regulations governing how you must behave. So do what is in your best interest, not everyone else's. You are your own best advocate. And I truly believe this.
I do think there's this idea of like hypocrisy that if you still have any issues that you're grappling with from your service, that you need to be smaller and somehow quieter about your advocacy. And so these people, they feel like they can't talk about this because they're not perfect. It's like keep it the Jones gone veteran. It really is what it is. Like some of us made it, we're doing really successful, so we can preach to the people on how to make it through the path, but only if we're always good. It's so unreasonable. I really do think that's part of our suicide epidemic. My friends who get close to the suicidal part of it, and everyone goes, but they were so okay. I never saw it coming. They weren't okay because even non-veterans aren't okay every fucking day.
Exactly.
It's inhumane to expect someone to all of a sudden be okay forever just so that you can feel inspired by how one day it all got better for them. It's not real. And it sets people up for failure to think that that's possible.
Oh, yeah. I got entirely cussed out by a TED Talk giver at Miss Veteran America because I wasn't like sunshine and rainbows up my asshole. Like, and I was like made as one small joke because I'm fucking like a smart ass bitch. I'm dumb. I'm gonna make a joke. But at the end of the day, like, you're a negative person and you're a disgrace and you're this bitch. Like, I'm doing all kinds of stuff to help people. At the end of the day, it's not about my ego. It's about helping people. I'm my authentic self. I don't try to pretend I'm fake because other people will see me and what my platform and they will assume that what I'm doing is their survival guide. So they're going to like, well, she's like this, so that's what I need to do. No, like at the end of the day, you know, you need to take care of what you need to take care of. you're not going to be everyone's cup of tea. We're not fucking tacos. We're not going to be all universally loved.
Right?
Like, that's facts.
Right.
And at the end of the day, like, not everyone's going to be Susie fucking Sunshine, especially with severe PTSD, because some of us have rage PTSD. There's all different types of PTSD, and it manifests entirely different in everybody. It's just being your own best advocate and being able to have some sense of community with others that may understand you. And if that's not those people, sis, you need to find those people. You come hang out with us. We're cool. We're smart asses. You always laugh with me and Emily. And, Tiffany, she's awesome too. At the end of the day, it's about just being relatable and real in your experiences. You don't have to lie and say it's sunshine and rainbows and this was and this. And I believe that there was two types of women veteran experiences, the gloried and the fallen. Basically, the glory have the great experience. They never had anything bad happen to them. So they tend to judge people that had maybe a lesser than experience because they don't understand.
Well, here's my thing. Kind of what she said is, have you ever seen an inspirational speaker or person on a fucking TED Talk who's like, my mom and dad love me. I had a middle class upbringing. I got my wife, my kids, everything was fine. Let me tell you how to get through hardship. You don't want that person guiding you. No, you want the person who said, I got ripped apart, and I might not have it all figured out because I got ripped apart, but I can definitely show you a few tools because I'm grinding through it with you.
Yep. And it's the people that jump in the trench with you to help you dig out because they know from experience how the fuck to get out are the people that you truly respect because they've been through hell came back, and are getting more people out rather than the people that are like looking at it from afar and supervising. Like, which person are you really going to admire and respect? The person that's been there through those experiences or the person that maybe saw it from afar? Like, I feel like that's why a lot of us have trust issues with therapists in the VA because it's like, you have no clue what the fuck I'm talking about, lady.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think we need to change how we address mental health stuff. It's become it is trendy now. It's trendy to talk about mental health. It's like a cool thing, right? But it's inauthentic because it's become a cool thing. It's so half-hearted. We'll say like, suicide awareness will post a number, like post your own number, check on your friend, call them, text them. You don't need post a number by all means, but what really hurts is like to be so suicidal and alone and to have the response be call this professional who doesn't know you, who has no personal relationship with you, because you are so isolated in that moment. You have to rely on a 1-800 number. Like, what a sinking moment.
Well, on that note, I did want to quickly mention, just because it is around the holidays and, you never know who's watching. So we did have a previous guest, Donna Quach. She owns the Battle Buddies app. I would recommend it to any brother and sister in arms in crisis over the holiday season. It is free. It is a counselor-based service for veterans that are in active crisis or active duty service members. It doesn't go back to the command. It's something that they have trained counselors that will help women that are suffering from MST. They have women counselors that have the experience that come online and can speak with them. So it's just something that's there for you right now, especially during the holiday season, if you were to need it. So it's just an app and a resource I did want to just shout out really quickly.
Yeah, for sure. And
that's amazing. I didn't know about it.
Yeah, it's a very new app. It just launched
great resources out
Brandy,
there.
look at me learning so much coming on the podcast. This actually is helping me as a vet. It's interesting. It is a duality, right? Like, I can definitely offer some stuff because I've been kind of like pondering through it, but then here I am sitting also still as a veteran, and I'm getting so much from you, from things I didn't know.
Like, I mean, really, I mean, it's been a rough year for me to do the podcast. I'll be honest. Like, there's been a few times I'm like, maybe I should step back. When we lost Melissa, when I did learn the best of, being your own boss, things like that, and really having your own independent control. But at the end of the day, I really thought about it. And my guests were the ones telling me, you are not allowed to quit. You have too many resources. The veterans need you. You can't do that. And on that note, I did want to say hey to Operation Tattooing Freedom tattooer Grimm, Lord Grimm. So he's been commenting on tonight. Hell yeah, brother. Can't wait till you come to San Antonio tattoo us. Yes. In the Ben. Okay.
Tell him I need my hand tattoo fixed.
Yes. Yeah, I already told him.
So mingled.
You gotta come here where it's a little bit warmer.
And he makes clothes. Badass clothes too.
You got to tattoo me first, and then you can tattoo me.
What?
No, I want a spot. I don't have the real estate.
Yeah.
Did he take the blood to fix my hand?
Yeah, and Chris Blinn said he agreed to come out as well. So he's actually supposed to be a guest host as well. But we unfortunately were able to do a scheduling, but we want to do an Ink Master takeover in the future because we were gonna have Tony DeVille and Chris both do it, because Tony DeVille had a podcast for some years.
Yeah.
But
And I just want to tell all of y'all that, like, if you're struggling with a reason to stay here, it is okay to use spite as a reason to get you through the next day.
You're damn Skippy.
I've had some veterans over
You're
the years.
completely wrong. You got to stay here for one more day.
Well, reach out if you need help. You're not a burden. You don't have to suck it up, Buttercup, because obviously that's not working at that point. Reach out, battle someone that, wingman, old supervisor, asshole, ex-boyfriend, whatever, whomever you need to reach out to. Not my ex-husband, because that's not going to fucking happen. But either way,
or mine.
Reach out to somebody that will just hear you. And you never know what will happen, because at the end of the day, the 22 day is far more than that shit. Like, it's probably like 45 days, something ridiculous, especially with all the opioid deaths and things like that. I mean, at the end of the day, we need to be there for each other. Imagine if we had a veteran community where we helped each other and support each other rather than burn each other. Like, let's do that. Let's affect the change we want to see, right?
I think an issue is this idea we talked about, both being an advocate while still being a veteran. And I think there's this issue where I've talked to suicidal veterans on the phone, and people will get in this empty promise, like, you're not psychic, you don't know what tomorrow holds. And so to tell somebody tomorrow will be better is not helpful, because what if tomorrow is not better and that's all they get on for? And you're told that day after day, tomorrow will be better, tomorrow, and it's not coming. So I never tell a suicidal veteran on the phone, hey, it's going to be better. What I do say, though, is I can talk logic here. Statistics. Every day you exist, the odds that another day will be better than, maybe not great, but at least better, go up. So as long as you are still alive, your chances are good. But as soon as you are dead, game over. Is it not worth
100%?
Well, so every day that you are alive, the odds are different. So there was a time where I lived in a garbage bag. I mean, I was a homeless veteran living in this Minnesota winter. It's -50 right now. Ooh. This was actually the time. Yeah, I almost died. I had nerve damage in my feet. It was horrible. And if you told me in that moment, as I was shoving clothes into this garbage bag to make a makeshift sleeping bag, because as a female veteran, the only offers for a place to come were not coming from women. They were coming from men. And I certainly didn't trust men. No. So talk about limited resources for females looking for help. A homeless male veteran will have lots of safe men to go to. Even coming up here, I had males offer places to sleep as I made this journey, and there was no way. I'd far sooner sleep in my car.
Same.
But back then, if you'd come to me and said, there is a day that's going to be better, I am a problem solver like a lot of us in the military. I looked at every potential branch of the tree of problem solving of how it could be. And I just couldn't see it. But if you told me that every day that I lived was an odd chance that something may happen, you don't know what, that it could be better, that is just enough. So if you are suicidal at that point, you just don't know, because God, when I was in there, I was living off the dollar menu at McDonald's, and I lived for the kids' meal toys. And it's not a sad story for me. People will tell me, like, God, it's so sad, I'm so sorry. Don't be sorry for me. That is my favorite story of my life. Next to giving birth to my child, it told me so much about who I am. And now when I face hardships, I dig back into that memory, and it's become something where I don't even worry about this new thing I'm looking at. So if you are in a bad position where maybe in this moment you are homeless, or you're drinking, or you just can't see any way this could turn out, you just don't know. And you won't find out if you don't stay. You have to stay to find out.
And it's not always going to feel like this. There are going to be better days. I can't promise you when they're coming, but they're going to be better. And you've survived 100% of your shitty days.
Yeah, well, not even that. Like, the one thing I look at in EMS, what we were told often is that the most common reasons were something financial, something that was temporary, either relationship that was something that could be fixed. It was just things that were minor, but the person didn't see a way out. And that's what did it. And people always come back around. They say, well, if I would have known, I would have, or this would have happened, and they would not have known this, and they would not have believed this. So a lot of times a situation may look so bad. And as he always says, you may be drowning in a cup of water. Step back, reassess, get the help you need, reach out to people you need to, dig deep in that pride and do what you got to do. Because at the end of the day, it's not always about you. Like, especially us as parents, our kids look to us as an example, one way or the other. So if we were to succeed that way, what did that teach our kids?
It's funny because she talked about how the military changed who she was as a mother. And one of the things that I did with Lilia was we were going down this really steep climb down to this lake, and it was emotionally really taxing on her. She's like, I can't do it. I can't do it. And I remember thinking about me and the first time I had that 14-mile hike, and I had never done anything like that. So my brain, I'm like, how the hell? And the moment that I did it and how incredible it felt to know myself better. And like that garbage bag story, how much it felt like I knew me in a different way. And so I kind of felt like a bad mom because my child is crying and I'm just like, but I want her to feel that moment of redemption because I pushed her through it. She cried the whole time. And when she was done, I'm like, and how do you feel now? And she's like, this was amazing. Yeah. You know, she just felt like, and like, so the next time you see something like this, think back to this, and each one you're going to remember, I did that. So what the hell is this to me? Some of the best parts of who I am as a parent are some of the things that were the scariest for me in the military.
And mental fortitude is so important. That's one thing that Mark Coleman talked about when he came on, UC Hall of Famer, Godfather Ground and Pound himself. He was saying that the one thing that we lack as a society really is that mental fortitude, and that toughness especially is not really getting passed down to the next generation. So just teaching them that, you know, sometimes you have to push past that feeling, you know, and be uncomfortable and do things outside of what you like rather than what you know, don't like. You know, you never know
what amazing thing you're going to find on the other side.
Exactly. And on that mental toughness note, reframing in our head what that means.
Yep.
When I got out and I was kind of lost, I said, you know, I was looking for that structure, that leadership, and my leadership is garbage like most people's.
Same.
I became in my brain, I played this game with myself to act as if though I were the leadership I should have had. So in my brain, I'm like, okay, I am my specialist PFC and I'm fucked up right now. So I am going to third party this view and talk to myself, like, what would I do for my soldier? What would I do for my battle buddy? And that changed everything. You know, my mental toughness was no longer contained. It was like, my soldier's fucked up right now. She's going to the VA. I'm dragging her ass there. So I dragged myself to the VA. And it was traumatizing because the VA reminded me of everything I hated about the military. Yep. But I forced myself like I would my soldier. And from that day forward, everything got easier and better.
Yep. I remember for me, I told myself I was going to treat like a second time or a part-time job, me getting from 90 to 100. So every single week in San Antonio, I'd go to Texas Veterans Commission and sit there for like, 6 hours a week, literally just having to fix like hours and hours and hours of paperwork they messed up for years. But it took me about 6 months, but I got from 90 to 100 within a year because of the fact that I didn't want to quit. And I was like, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to finish this. And it was something that, you know, I always poo-poo it, you know, and I'm a lot of women veterans do it too. There's so many records I've looked at where they're like, I just don't have time. I'll get to it later. It's not a big deal. But at the end of the day, it is a big deal. That's your blood bunny. You need to take care of that. You, Tiffany, taking full, hands-on approach into your mental health and awareness and just like your physical aspects as well. A lot of us need to do that. I know I'm bad at putting myself last, especially as a mom. You know, we give ourselves scraps of everything that we do in a day, which is a lot, especially if it's a single parent, it's even worse. So, you know, us deciding to be our own best advocate, we always forget. So to have that reminder, it's important.
You know, it's funny. I thought my kid wouldn't notice that. It's amazing. We get so jaded and mixed up as kids, as adults, it kind of messes us up. Like they kind of project their own trauma and fuck up our own thinking. We're doing pretty well when we come into the world. So I'm sitting there in Target getting ready to go in, and Lilia stops me and she's like, Mom, please get yourself something. This is like, she's 4 years old. I thought this was flying past her. I thought, you know, I'm being a great mom and getting her these Christmas presents and doing these great things. And my child is actually, I'm messing it up. She's actually getting traumatized from seeing me let myself fall apart for her sake. She's blaming herself.
Yeah.
So then I realized I have to dial back because my child's well-being is her seeing me also take care of me. I don't want her to end up being the person that grows up and pours her heart and soul to every friend, every broken person. And so there's nothing left of her.
Well, not even that, like our kids see the struggles we have and they don't understand necessarily the trauma that caused it. Like my daughter, like she always goes on and on, like, I will never go in the military. I don't want to end up like you. And she doesn't understand that most people don't have my experience. But, you know, our kids seeing that, you know, we accept that we're like this and we're not getting treatment, you know, will definitely have an impact on them when they're older and adults, you know, and then they're going to think like, well, my mom didn't get treatment, you know, so I don't need to do it either. Or some people treat therapy like it's a 4-letter word. And, you know, that definitely plays onto like their kids needing it, and then the kids don't want to be compliant because of the fact that their parents never did it either. So I mean, we have to really show our kids sometimes through our actions, not necessarily our words, that treatment is something that you definitely need to do when you have different traumas, be it mental, be it physical, anything that is showing that it's growth, and it helps really repair the damage that has been done. But what was I going to say? I know we kind of went on a tangent here, but I love this conversation, and I'm here for it all the time because
That was
it
definitely
needs,
my fault. 100% my fault.
girl. Like I'm the queen of running off tangent and overtime. Like that's why I'm thankful that I get to do what the fuck I want now. So at the end of the day, no one gets to say anything to me. So at the end of the day, I mean, we've had 2 or 3 hour podcasts before, but we're not gonna do that tonight. But either way, though, I mean, I'm definitely down to have you ladies on any time, and we can continue this. I want to do like a camo table talk, sort of, where we have a bunch of women veterans from all walks of life come on and just talk about different topics. Because I mean, the things that we addressed tonight, they're so important to discuss and normalize, and they're so needed to have other veterans hear. Veterans, especially females, in different capacities, say, hey, I had struggles, I had this issue, and I had to do this, and I wasn't perfect, and I didn't have a cookie cutter Instagram perfect life. I took some cool ass pictures, but at the end of the day, my life's kind of fucked up. Like, you don't want this. But at the end, but it's a fair expectation. And I mean, people need to see that, it can't always be cookie cutter perfect all the time. But if anyone ever wants to discuss a specific topic, please do reach out to us at the Yes, I Am the Veteran podcast. We're happy to connect if veterans have questions. I know Cecilia had talked to me about it last week. I think we're going to start working on a database or something with our guests, because we've had so many amazing guests with so many resources. That way, anyone in need can really just pop on, and everything's right there in one place. Now, I know a lot of organizations have them, but I want to do something specifically to our podcast. That way, anyone's like, well, I remember this person came on a while back. They can kind of go back and they can find that, and it's easily accessible. Now, I did want to quickly talk about another Battle Buddies. So Battle Buddies, the actual supplement from Nature's Keep, they are still giving away about a year of product. Their supplement. Now it's CBN. All you need to do is actually message battle_buddy nation on Instagram, and you just let them know our podcast. Like, hey, I heard about the supplement Battle Buddies on Yes, I'm the Veteran. They'll send you a week free. No questions. They'll just take care of you, because I wanted to have something for our veterans around the holiday season. So, and they're getting a lot of reviews, especially in the areas for ADHD, then the realm for PTSD, anxiety, insomnia, and also chronic stress. So especially around the holidays, which is a huge time for a drop or a massive spike, should I say, in suicides, any little thing helps, and it usually affects in about an hour. I was pretty amazed by how quickly it worked. I'd used it myself, and I was like, wow, like this feels amazing. Like, are you sure this is just CBN? They're like, yeah, it's just CBN. So if anyone has any questions, it's last week's podcast with Nature's Key if they want to know more about it, or you can DM me and I can give you more information, but I'm going to go ahead and quickly put that on here. And before we do close out tonight, I'm going to go around and ask final thoughts from both of you ladies, if that's okay. Emily, did you want to go first?
Yeah, like, look, y'all, being in the service has its ups and downs. It was one of the best decisions I ever made in my entire life. And, yeah, there may be some things I regret, but at the end of the day, it's brought me some amazing friends and a mission again. Like, I'm here to support veterans and what they need. And if y'all need something, I'm on Instagram. What is it? Emily E for MVA 2021. You can find me there.
Awesome.
Happy to talk if y'all need me to.
I just feel like your dress should have its own Instagram still, though. Her dress was so big and evil. Like, I wanted to call it Ursula, but that was not. What was your fucking dress's name? We named it. What was it?
We kept going back and forth between Black Betty and Ursula.
Black Betty, that's what it was. It was Black Betty.
Way more flattering.
It was amazing. Like, she was like she was like black
ball down.
I need photos. Send it to me.
And then her husband wore it, and he wore it better, and he could like sashay in. And I'm like, no, the turns though, like you could have taught some of those finalists, because I would have saved me some time.
You're picking my next husband. That's amazing. All men I date from now on go for you too.
But yes, no. But Emily, like I said, it's always a pleasure having you on. So both of these ladies are out of San Antonio as well. So expect to see more hell raising from us. I'm here for that. But it's all about building a tribe. For me, I don't judge. I'm definitely not fucking perfect. I'm a hot ass mess. Check me out 5 minutes before this fucking podcast every week, because damn. But at the end of the day, like I pull it together at the last minute, but don't let that fool you. I do not lead a perfect life by any means. It is usually wild as hell. Ask anybody. But
I mean, y'all can see the mess behind me, right? This is my craft room. This is it's never cleaner than this. This is
that's pretty
emblematic
sexy,
of the rest of my life.
crafting mom, I get that. It's usually my closet's a hot mess in there right now. But all right, Tiffany, so what are some final thoughts from you, lady?
I wanted to make the same offer. I mean, I obviously am a mom and my time is limited, and I also admitted that I'm not always perfect, but I have Instagram, I have Facebook, and if you want to reach out, I will help you. And if I can't help you, I'm sure I know some organization or some person that can. And I won't abandon you there. I think that's really important, is I'm not just going to refer you somewhere and pass you along. I will stay with you through that and make sure that you are okay. And then we're friends forever.
Absolutely. And honestly, like, just reach out to us. Like, if you guys need anything from us, reach out to us, reach out to a battle, reach out to your providers. There's 988 now. And then the Battle Buddies app, like I said, is a phenomenal app. It's free for veterans and active duty. It doesn't cost anything. It doesn't go to your chain. But if you need to talk to somebody, talk to somebody. Like, you don't have to have who's the biggest stick to the grave. Like, no one gives a shit after you die. Like, no one cares. At the end of the day, like, that being here and present is such a gift, and people don't realize who you can impact by things like that. You really never understand until after. I've gotten many responses, and like, their family is just usually blown away by the impact. But at the end of the day, it's okay to not be okay. It's not okay to suffer in silence and not ask for help. So
one shameless plug, I totally forgot. I am now very recently the representative for Burn Pits 360 for San Antonio. They're connecting. They are the ones who, when you now call a VA, you will hear about the PACT Act. They made it possible to make a claim for the burn pit damages. And they are connecting people with not only just the ability to get the access to help for that, but hyperbaric chamber treatments. I actually have done some for my TBI, and it really does work. They have pictures and can show you. On my Facebook, you can go there and I will show you the before and afters. It is truly connecting and reviving parts of my brain that I thought were forever gone.
That is awesome.
It is awesome. I need all of it that I can get. Hopefully someone with serotonin.
Yes, right. Thank God for the alpha stim, because I don't know what I would do without it. But definitely with the PACT Act, if anyone has questions about that as well, please do reach out, especially if you have specific questions, because I know there was 14 different provisions. So definitely, if you have specific questions, ask. It's better to ask than just not blow it off thinking that you don't qualify, because so many veterans, I cannot tell you how many Marines records I've reviewed, like 90% of them, where they have crazy exposures and they had no clue it was in the records.
And I also know places are for you for the testing to see if you have exposure, because there is secondhand exposure. I have jet fuel exposure from being a kid growing up on the air posts. It was in our water. So, yeah, right?
That's how bad it is. It's in the water. Like, that's saturated. That's
families. It's it really is a lot.
And that's the thing. Like, I still can't get over to even file for the water contamination at Lejeune. You have to have a good conduct discharge, which, if you look at it in theory, right? Like, if, say, like, you had this exposure and you had a psych issue and it led to your condition of being discharged, that should automatically overturn your discharge, right? In theory.
I don't think so.
That would make sense to me. But I'm going to ask Erin Brockovich about this, because she's going to be coming on next year. So she's going to be representing.
I know, I said the same face. I kind of freaked out too.
Oh my God, that's so cool.
Yeah, one of our previous guests, she's been working with her hand in hand, and they are really trying to get more eyes, especially from the Marines community, that, you can file. And there's a lot of misnomers when it comes to it. And again, people are leaving blood money on the table, and they should not. So, I mean, it's really just know what your benefits are. And, like, I can't say that enough. I'm guilty of it my damn self. I literally didn't know I was eligible for the clothing allowance for 10 years. And they don't back pay that at all. So it's a car I could have had just chilling on my driveway. But I didn't know. And I got in a naked breakfast argument and lost. I lost. But at the end of the day, like, the information was gained And, I can help other veterans. Like, I did a video about it, and 23,000 veterans had no clue watched it. And they were just like, I didn't know that this was a thing. How did I not know? And it had been years and years. And that's just one particular benefit. There's so many more out there that we don't know about. Like,
I also think, though, in terms of going back one last time before I take over this whole podcast and never shut up, being a parent was a huge part of me pushing through to get those benefits, because even if I still had that feeling in me that I didn't deserve it or wasn't bad enough, my kid deserved it.
Yep.
And that if you feel like maybe you're not veteran enough or it's not that bad, then at least let it be bad enough in your mind to let your significant other or child benefit, because they do benefit from you being better, and there are benefits they get from you when you file those claims.
Well, like I told my sister, she's a veteran as well. She didn't she wanted to file for a specific condition, and she didn't think she would, was worthy of said condition. I told her, at the end of the day, look at it like a vehicle claim. Claim it. You may not agree, but I believe you have it, and I worked in the medical community for some time, so just prove me wrong here. But claim it, and then they can do their due diligence, and then at the end of the day, see what happens. The worst thing they'll tell you is no, but if they tell you yes, you could change your life. And they came back and they immediately gave her like the top rating for it. And she's like, I didn't know. I was like, well, what had you not done? Like, how much different would your life be right now? How much would that change your life? The extra money that you're giving every month now. And that's not just her. I've had the argument with. I've had friends that, they were rape survivors. And at the end of the day, they didn't want to file because they were afraid that they were going to get court-martialed, or they're going to get UCMJ issues because they were drinking, which like 60% of cases have alcohol involved. But I was like, just file. The worst thing they'll tell you is no. And she got all these extra allowances because now they're actually reviewing for special monetary compensations in conjunction with prior back pay claims themselves. They didn't do that always, but they are now. But with those cases, like, she had all these extra allowances now. She didn't even claim at that time. And she was just like, what is this? And I'm like calculating it out. Oh, this is this allowance. This is this allowance. And we just need to read our records more. We need to know what are in our records. And if you don't have your record, email me. I will give you the standard form 180 that you need to submit. Every branch files at a different place, but it's just 4 locations, or well, I guess 5 now because of 5 branches. But at the end of the day, that's it. There's just 1 per branch. And the worst thing that happens is they tell you yes. Right? That's how I look at it anyway. But I mean, it's just knowing your claims, knowing what's in them, knowing nomenclature, and just not taking fucking no for an answer, and knowing and trusting in that you have these issues, and just have to justify it sometimes. And unfortunately, the VA doesn't make it easy always. I've had to fight for 10 years to prove I have a dead leg, and now they're disagreeing with their own reader. I'm like, it's weird. I am too. But at the end of the day, be your own best advocate. That's all I can say. More than anything, be your own best advocate. Like what Tiffany was saying, treat yourself like you treat your troop. Would you let your troop get away with that shit? No. Okay, well then, don't do that to your damn self. Don't shortchange yourself. Like, take care of yourself too. It's important.
And trust yourself, because you know what? When I was told that I was convergence, or it was my PTSD, or a million things, I blamed myself for being so emotionally weak that I was doing this paralysis to myself, that I did a fight, but I probably would have got through that fight a lot sooner and had a lot less brain damage had I just believed me over the professional. I know me, I am me. You are you. If you feel like something is wrong, trust you before you trust them every single time.
Absolutely. That's the only reason I'm still alive. Literally. Like, they were telling me to like almost the day I died, nothing is wrong with you. Nothing is wrong with you. And I felt like I was dipped in like fire, and like everything was just like going off because all my nerves were firing at that point, because my nerve systems were starting to shut down. But they sent me home that day, and I got home and I heard a voice saying that if you don't get treatment in the next 2 days, you'll die. I'm like, good enough for me. And then I went back. I was like, I'm gonna take my chances with the fucking British. Y'all are idiots. And they were like, what? And I was like, yeah, you heard me. And I went, and the British were like, good thing you came, because you're about to die. And I was like, well, shit. But had I not pushed for myself like that, I would not be here to have this podcast today. I would not have. For me, I was told when I was AirVac, my lot in life was to sit in a wheelchair, rot, and collect unemployment and disability. At 25, they said, see ya. Like, you're broken now. We don't want you. But they weren't trying to fix me either. And I wasn't deployed, so it was shameful. I was treated like I drank, drove, and almost killed somebody, or did kill somebody, and mangled myself, rather than someone who legitimately needed help and resources and needed to heal. They just created more neuroses and more damage instead of like really treating what they had done. And that's why I try to advocate where I can, how I can with what I have left, because at the end of the day, it's important that others see that we struggled, we overcame, and, you know, we're doing what we're doing now. But
Yep.
again, thank you guys so much for coming on. I really appreciate you guys coming on tonight. I always love doing the Bad Moms podcasts, just because it's, you know, us cutting up usually more. So this is more of a serious one, but I'm here for it. Anything with women veterans is important. But it's always great to have women veterans coming on and talking about issues that are impacting the community, especially because, you know, other people just like to hear your experience, right? You know, oh, I'm not alone. It's not just me. You know, I can talk about this. I can ask for help. I can tell somebody that I'm having this health issue. You know, you don't have to give out your personal information if you don't need to, but it's okay to not be ashamed of it either. Like, I know, Tiffany, you know, you're very much out and proud about yourself, and me, I'm the same way. You know, I'll tell you, you know, I have a zombie leg before anybody. You know, you saw me lace that shit up, Emily. That took like an hour, by the way. An hour.
It
like
looked
that
amazing.
Is that carotid? Can you feel that side?
part of it. It's like it goes from like no sensitivity to like hypersensitivity, which is frustrating, and like that's why I couldn't actually pierce the leg like in a corset, because of the fact that so much tissue, muscle, and tendon is missing that my bones actually come up under a body scanner as a weapon. So yeah, that's awkward. Always at pat downs, the eyes are always hilarious.
Oh my god.
So fun to fuck with people, but it's little things. But either way, for me, I wanted to do something that was different, because I know I have a metal ass scar, and I know I'm the most, like, the worst scarred veteran in San Antonio per prosthetics. But I wanted to kind of like control like how it was viewed. So that's why I was actually researching to do like a prosthetic or like a fake corset effect. But it's hard as fuck to like keep on that long. Like, so like I had to do a lot of research in the glue and the research master piercers, like how to do like the actual corset where it would hold and not pull on the actual tissue itself. But yeah, a lot of research was done. But either way, it just, you know, embrace your new normal. Like for me, I know I'm never going to be fucking normal. Like I know I'm never going to not piss off beauty queens running into a pageant. I will chap asses just showing up. But at the end of the day,
Boring.
exactly. It's
I've
overrated.
definitely gotten that feedback after the stroke, where people said, maybe it's because the female thing, that they were more sad that the right side of my face had fallen down here. And like on video, it's much more noticeable because you see me blink off, whatever, right?
Mhm.
And I'm not sad about it. You are the one who's more worried about my face than I am. I'm pretty fucking proud of it.
Yeah, like I still
But it's
pretty
kind of
fucking sexy. Yeah.
well, and I just think it's a better story. Like it's easy to have been born with this symmetrical and be pretty or whatever, but I'm really proud that like I'm still going forward like you are. And it's kind of like the wrinkles in your face tell a story. Like my side shows I survived mini strokes and a mass stroke. That's pretty fucking beautiful to me.
Yeah, just one will do it, much less multiple. So
Just one stroke.
like, you should have seen what my doctors did when they found out that all my clots were in my left ventricle. They're like, "How the fuck did you not have like multiple strokes? How are you still here?" I was like, "Fuck if I know." But I mean, it's definitely, it can change your life. And some people, they don't have like the full therapy where they can get to like a minimalized effect. Sometimes it's like a full pronounced droop. Like you can't control anything. Like it depends on like the severity and, you know, how many you've had, and there's a lot of different factors. But I'm here for it. Like, I mean, normalize not being normal. I'm here for it. Like at the end of the day, I'm just kind of like, you're gonna get what I show you and like it. I mean, too many people believe you need to be perfect to be accepted, and I feel like that's an unfair stigma.
Perfect. It's not relatable. Who can relate to someone who's perfect? It makes me uncomfortable. And the only ones who are perfect pretend to be, and they just make me feel sad for them, the pressure they put on themselves.
Yeah.
Like you get what I give you, and either you like it or you can fuck off.
Which makes you an easier person to talk to. If I'm confiding in someone, I'm confiding to one of you two.
Yeah, exactly. Because you know that person has realistic expectations.
Yeah.
And they're not going to be someone that's like, oh, it's not Dillard's perfect. Sorry, fuck off. You know,
humanity. It's humanity.
Pilot wives. That's why she's laughing.
What'd she say?
Oh, I was like pilot wives. Like, if you don't think you're in Dillard's, you fuck off. But no, there's actually weird trivia. There's actually an infamous song on iTunes. It's called "The Bitch Spent All My Money." It's written by Dos Gringos, which is actually an Air Force pilot band. They're banned from the O Club because they wrote a song about the base commander's wife, who is a general. He was on the muse, but it was actually true. But I did meet them; they're legends. But it's pretty hilarious if you guys are Air Force fans. But
I've heard it. It's hilarious.
yes, it is. It's super inappropriate, but hilarious.
Yes.
But yes, again, either way though, normalize being abnormal. Like I said, I'm here for it all day, and you're always welcome, Tiffany. If you ever want to come back on, I'm sure we're going to be seeing you quite a bit here in the future. I'm sure there are plans in effect. But
I'm trying to be quiet. My ex-husband said I talk too much, and every ex I had since then.
blinked awkwardly. I
I'm
was
trying
like,
to in between.
oh no.
For doing that.
Yes, I'm here for it though. So definitely expect to see more from us. I know there's a lot of things in the works that I'm excited to see come to pass. I won't talk too much about it, but either way, San Antonio Veterans about to do some crazy shit. Yes. But that's all we have for tonight, guys. Like I always say, be good or be good at it. Please reach out. It's okay to not be okay. Like I said, reach out to your battle friends, family, especially around the holiday season. You really never know. Hey, brother. So Shannon says hello. As he always says in his song, "You are not alone," right, Shannon? Pretty awesome. He just did a super sweet video with Triple Martini Productions. So check that out. But phenomenal voice. He is a prior guest host of ours as well. He's a doc as well. Phenomenal. But definitely check out his new song, "You're Not Alone." Well, it's not new. It's new to others, but the music video is new. Pretty sweet, actually. But have a wonderful holiday, guys. And like I said, please reach out if you have any questions for us. Definitely check out the Battle Buddy Nation for the supplement. I cannot recommend it enough. And if you have any questions about anything we talked about tonight, because we did kind of chew about a lot, please reach out, and we're more than happy to help you guys. Have a good night.
Bye.